You don't want to be a weak person, do you? The world has huge claws ready to slice you at any moment. Do you want to be a failure in life? Of course not. That's why you're here. Stay away from these habits that make you weak, keep you from success, and lead you into a world where you will only be humiliated. Come to the Stoic side with me, follow these tips, and you will see that you will do better. But before we start, I would like to invite you to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and so you will be aware of when I upload more video like this. Well, how do we become more stoic? Recognizing and understanding it. The cardinal virtues of Stoicism are the moral qualities that enable us to live according to reason and nature. There are four: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Wisdom is the knowledge of what is good and what is bad, what depends on us and what does not. Justice is respect for the laws and the rights of others, as well as benevolence and fairness. Courage is the courage to face difficulties and dangers without letting oneself be dominated by fear or pain. Temperance is the control of desires and passions, seeking balance and moderation. These virtues, as you know, help us to strengthen our will and our reason, and to live a full and happy life without being carried away by temptations. You may ask, why, if I talk to you about habits that weaken you, do I mention temptation? Because the world is full of temptations that keep you from success. These habits that I will tell you about are temptations, so that is why I mention it. Now you understand? Well, let's start with the first habit that I recommend staying away from. It's going to be 15, so grab a pen and paper because we're going to get started. Number 1, don't make fun of others. The advice not to speak ill of other people or make fun of them has a double dimension: ethical and psychological. From an ethical point of view, it is a norm that seeks to respect the dignity and reputation of others, avoiding causing them harm or discomfort with our words. And if that is not enough to understand that this point is key to your day-to-day, you should know that my advice is about an attitude that helps us cultivate the virtue of prudence, avoiding falling into the vice of gossip, slander, or gossip, which can damage our own image and self-esteem. Stoic philosophy teaches us that speaking ill of other people or making fun of them is a way of distracting ourselves from our own moral progress and generating unnecessary conflicts with others. In addition, it is a way of judging others for their shortcomings or mistakes without regard to their circumstances or intentions, causing us to lose perspective and compassion. The Stoics invite us to practice silence as a form of self-control and reflection, and to use language only to express truth, goodness, and beauty. According to modern psychology, this could be a symptom of low self-esteem, insecurity, or envy, which leads us to project our own shortcomings or frustrations onto others. My advice is, don't weaken yourself by wasting your time to make fun of you or talk badly behind other people's backs. You don't want someone outside your life to be a source of stress, anxiety, or guilt. Number 2, avoiding reality. The Stoics teach us that we must accept things as they are without denying or distorting them. Reality can be harsh, but evading it only generates more suffering and frustration. However, avoiding reality implies denying or fleeing from the facts, which prevents us from facing them with wisdom and strength. In addition, evading reality can lead to more suffering in the long run, as it takes us away from the truth and makes us live in an illusion that will sooner or later be shattered. On the other hand, psychology shows us that avoiding reality is an ineffective form of coping, which can lead to anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, and other mental problems. Avoiding reality prevents us from resolving conflicts, learning from mistakes, and growing as people. Marcus Aurelius says, "Do not turn away from human things, but draw near to them and examine them attentively." The present reality is what should matter to you. Approach this context and examine it carefully to create a work plan. Number 3, not accepting responsibility. Accepting responsibility implied taking control of what depends on us, such as our thoughts, actions, and judgments, and accepting with serenity what does not depend on us, external events. Accepting responsibility implies having a proactive and committed attitude with our lives, without blaming others or circumstances for what happens to us. Epictetus tells us, "Do not ask for things to happen as you will, but desire them to happen as they do, and you will prosper always." Responsibilities are not a burden, but an essential aspect of our lives. Responsibility should not be rejected or neglected. On the contrary, it must be accepted as a pathway to greatness and the realization of our potential as men. A famous psychologist named Viktor Frankl mentions, "Between the stimulus and the response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. Our growth and our freedom lie in our response." Number 4. Resist change. Change is inevitable and part of nature. The Stoics invite us to flow with change and take advantage of it as an opportunity for growth and learning. Resisting change wastes our energy and prevents us from moving forward. Embracing change helps us become more flexible and resilient. Marcus Aurelius says something interesting, and it is, "The universe is change, life, opinion." Change can also be seen as an opportunity for growth and adaptation. I invite you to cultivate an optimistic attitude, build resilience, seek meaning and purpose in life, and foster positive relationships with others. These principles coincide in part with Stoic values and can help to accept change as a source of learning and well-being. Number 5. Fleeing from failure. Fear of failure is one of the main causes of unhappiness and personal stagnation. When we run away from failure, we deny ourselves the opportunity to learn from our mistakes, to improve our skills, and to strengthen our self-esteem. Failure is not something we should avoid at all costs, but one that we must face with courage and serenity. For the sages of Stoicism, failure is a test of our virtue and an opportunity to exercise our will. When we fail, we can analyze the causes of our mistake, identify our weaknesses and strengths, and look for alternative solutions. So accepting our downfalls will only help us develop a growth mindset, which allows us to see problems as opportunities and not threats. Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that they are difficult." Number 6. To be slaves to pleasures. We must bear in mind that pleasures like pains, passions, and emotions are moral indifferent. That is, they do not affect the goodness or badness of an action. However, the Stoics warned that pleasures could be an obstacle to wisdom and freedom, as they made us dependent on external and ephemeral things. For this reason, the Stoics practiced self-control and moderation, avoiding excess and attachment to pleasures. Pleasures can generate addiction, that is, a physical or psychological dependence that prevents us from functioning normally without them. Let me tell you a story that I hope can reach your heart, and you analyze it wisely for our personal growth. Once upon a time, there was a lion who was the king of the jungle. He felt so powerful and proud that he was not afraid of anything or anyone. After all, he was big, strong, with a beautiful mane, and best of all, he was the king. However, one day, while walking through his territory, he came across a herd of hyenas who offered him a banquet of fresh meat. Hyenas having a nice gesture. This envious species had a great idea, and it consisted of starting from the fact that the lion was trusting and gluttonous. And just as the hyenas expected, the king accepted the invitation without suspecting that it was a trap. The hyenas had poisoned the meat with a substance that weakened the muscles and the will of the one who ate it. The lion inadvertently devoured the flesh and soon began to feel dizzy and tired. The hyenas took the opportunity to attack the lion and steal its mane, its symbol of authority and respect. The lion, humiliated and wounded, had to flee the jungle and seek refuge in a cave. There he learned the hard lesson that you should not trust strangers or be carried away by temptation. The moral of this story is that slavery to our pleasures makes us blind, leads us to neglect ourselves, and this has serious consequences. Number 7. Bad body language. Body language is a key aspect of human communication. It refers to the non-verbal expressions we make with our bodies, such as the way we shake hands, look into the eyes, sit, walk, and move when interacting with others. These signals can convey whether we are strong or weak people in our society. Being intentional with the body involves projecting an image of confidence, strength, and determination. To do this, you must adopt a straight and safe posture, walk with a firm and confident step, and maintain appropriate eye contact when interacting with others. I also recommend looking into the eyes of our interlocutor without looking too much or looking away. This shows that we are attentive and that we have an interest in what he says. Also, it's important not to force the moment. Just smile naturally and sincerely. Never gesticulate in an exaggerated way. Do it with moderation and coherence, without making sudden or contradictory movements. Body language can influence how we are perceived and treated by others. If we show ourselves as strong and confident people through our body language, others are less likely to try to take advantage of us. Number 8, being lazy and unproductive with your time. Being lazy and unproductive with your time is an attitude that weakens us as a person and stagnates us in a pessimistic life. From a psychological perspective, this attitude can be the result of low self-esteem, a lack of motivation, a fear of failure or depression. These conditions negatively affect our mental and emotional health and prevent us from reaching our goals and realizing our potential. To overcome laziness and unproductivity, it is necessary to change the way we think and act. What could you do? Well, grab a pencil and a sheet. You just have to write there what your goals are. You capture some that are clear and realistic, that inspire us and retain us. Plan your time and organize your activities in an efficient and balanced way. Something that could also help you, although it does not go hand in hand with being stoic, is to seek support and guidance from people who value and encourage us. And obviously, to stay strong and therefore motivated, we must take care of our physical and mental health through healthy habits. As the philosopher Aristotle said, "We are what we do repeatedly." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Let's not let laziness and unproductivity stop us from being great people. Number 9, not eating well. Not eating properly not only affects our physical health, but also our mental health. When we do not ingest the necessary nutrients, our brain does not function optimally, and our cognitive, emotional, and behavioral processes are altered. This can lead to low self-esteem, a lack of motivation, a negative view of ourselves and the world, and a greater vulnerability to stress, anxiety, and depression. In other words, not eating properly weakens us as a person and stagnates us in a pessimistic life. To avoid these harmful effects, it is important to adopt healthy eating habits that allow us to nourish our body and mind. Some recommendations are: eat in a varied and balanced way, including fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats. Avoid excessive consumption of sugar, salt, alcohol, and processed foods. Drinking enough water. Respect meal times and do not skip breakfast. Chew food well and eat calmly, and enjoy food without guilt or extreme restrictions. As the Greek philosopher Plato said, "The first good is health, the second beauty, the third wealth." Taking care of our diet is a way of taking care of our health and our inner beauty, which will make us feel happier, more confident, and more capable of achieving our goals and dreams. Number 10, be dogmatic or skeptical. Being dogmatic or skeptical means adopting a closed and rigid attitude towards reality, which prevents us from learning, growing, and adapting to changes. From a psychological perspective, these postures can generate stress, anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem, as they make us feel unable to face the challenges and opportunities that are presented to us. In addition, they distance us from others, as they hinder communication, empathy, and tolerance. To overcome dogmatism and skepticism, it is necessary to develop critical and reflective thinking, which allows us to question our beliefs and opinions, but also to recognize the evidence and the arguments that support them. Thus, we will be able to have a broader and more balanced vision of reality, which will help us make better decisions and solve problems creatively. It is also important to cultivate an open and curious attitude, which motivates us to explore new ideas, perspectives, and experiences without prejudice or fear. In this way, we will be able to enrich our knowledge and our personality. As the French philosopher Voltaire said, "I do not agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." This phrase sums up the value of freedom of expression and respect for diversity of thought, which are fundamental to human and social development. Number 11. Complain. Don't worry, complaining is a way of expressing our discomfort or dissatisfaction with something or someone. Complain freely. However, when it becomes a habit, it can have negative consequences for our mental and emotional health. Constantly complaining is a negative attitude that makes us see the bad side of everything and prevents us from appreciating the good we have. It also affects our mood and that of the people around us. Stop complaining, as this reinforces the idea that we are victims of circumstances and have no control over our reality. This prevents us from assuming our responsibility and seeking solutions to our problems. It also generates negative emotions such as anger, frustration, sadness, or resentment, and it prevents us from enjoying the present and being grateful for what we have. It makes us focus only on the bad and forget about the good. This reduces our happiness and well-being. I like to think there is no evil that does not come from good. If we stop complaining and start taking action, we can transform our reality and live a fuller, happier life. Number 12, compare yourself to other people. Comparing ourselves with others is a behavior as common as it is harmful to our mental and emotional health. Usually, when we compare ourselves, we focus on what we lack, on what we have not achieved, on what others have and we do not. This generates feelings of inferiority, frustration, envy, and resentment. It makes us feel that we are not enough, that we do not deserve to be happy, that we have nothing to contribute. It prevents us from valuing our strengths, our achievements, our qualities. It takes us away from our life purpose and our personal goals. Comparison, believe it or not, is a cognitive distortion that makes us see reality in a negative and biased way. Comparison prevents us from enjoying the present, makes us live in the past or the future, makes us dependent on external approval. To change this, I advise you to recognize and accept your individuality. Each person is unique and unrepeatable, with their own characteristics, abilities, tastes, values, and experiences. There is no one better or worse than us, just different. We must respect our essence and our diversity. It's important that you are grateful for what you have. Instead of focusing on what you lack, you should value what you have. Something that will make you feel better is to celebrate your accomplishments and those of others. Instead of minimizing or envying the successes of others, we should recognize and applaud them. Likewise, we must celebrate our own advances, however small. Recognizing our merits makes us feel proud, satisfied, and safe. And finally, learn from our mistakes and those of others. Number 13, isolate. Social isolation is a phenomenon that affects many people today, especially in times of crisis. But you should know that isolating yourself from others can have negative consequences for our mental and emotional health, as it deprives us of the interaction, support, and affection we need as human beings. In addition, it prevents us from growing and developing as people, as it takes us away from the opportunities, challenges, and learning that life offers us. From a psychological perspective, social isolation can be seen as a form of avoidance or escape from reality, which prevents us from facing our problems and solving them effectively. Social isolation can also be a symptom of a psychological disorder, such as depression, anxiety, or post-traumatic stress, which requires professional attention. And no, do not be afraid of a professional like the psychologist. Seeking help does not make you weak, not contrary, because it requires a lot of strength to recognize that something is happening in our life, and on top of that, seek to solve it. Many people flee, but you don't. Seek help. To break this vicious circle, it is important to seek help and support from people who love and value us, such as family, friends, or professionals. It is also essential to look for activities that make us feel good and give meaning to our lives, such as hobbies, volunteering, courses, or projects. It is also necessary to change our way of thinking and seeing reality, adopting a more optimistic and positive attitude, which allows us to recognize our strengths, value what we have, and aspire to what we want. As the Greek philosopher Aristotle said, man is by nature a social animal. Number 14, let your emotions dominate you. Letting emotions dominate us is a way of giving up our personal power and our ability to grow. When we get carried away by fear, anger, sadness, or resentment, we lose perspective on reality and lock ourselves in a vicious cycle of negativity. This affects not only our psychological well-being, but also our relationships, our health, and our performance. It is important to learn to regulate our emotions, that is, to identify, express, and transform them appropriately. To do this, self-knowledge, self-control, empathy, and assertiveness are required. One way to develop emotional regulation is through the practice of mindfulness. This technique consists of paying attention to the present moment without judging or reacting automatically. Thus, we can observe our emotions without identifying with them and choose the most appropriate response for each situation. Epictetus once said, "It is not things that disturb us, but the opinions we have of them." If we change the way we interpret what happens to us, we can also change the way we feel and act. In this way, we can free ourselves from the emotions that dominate us and move towards a fuller and more optimistic life. Number 15. Living in the past or in the future. Living in the past or future can have negative consequences for our emotional well-being and our ability to cope with the challenges of the present. The past can be a source of nostalgia, guilt, regret, or resentment, which prevent us from moving forward and learning from our experiences. The future can be a source of anxiety, fear, uncertainty, or excitement, distracting us from the opportunities and resources we have now. Both attitudes weaken us as people and stagnate us in a pessimistic life, which does not allow us to enjoy the moment or develop our potential. To avoid falling into these extremes, it is important to cultivate an attitude of balance between the past, the present, and the future. The past can be an ally if we use it to draw lessons, recognize our achievements, and value what we have experienced. The future can be an ally if we use it to set goals, plan actions, and anticipate solutions. The present can be an ally if we use it to focus on what we can do, feel, and change now, without letting go of our expectations or our memories. It's not that we have little time, but that we lose a lot. Seneca. Temptations in life are those things that attract or seduce us, but that go against Stoic ideals. Some common ones are pleasure, money, power, fame, pride, envy, anger, fear, and laziness. These temptations lead us away from our purpose and make us slaves to external circumstances. What should we do? Reflect on the benefits and drawbacks of each action before making a decision. Practice self-discipline and self-control, avoiding excesses and defects. Cultivate gratitude and generosity, acknowledging what we have and sharing it with others. And of course, meditating on nature and destiny, accepting what is out of our control and focusing on what depends on us. Okay, for more tips like this, you know what to do. If you liked the video, like it. That would help a lot to continue growing. Now we know what comes next. This is not a goodbye, it is a see you later.